Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm Donna Haversat, a user experience strategist with Four Kitchens. I worked with the NYU Steinhardt team to understand their prospective students and come up with a new website navigation with the goal of hand-holding prospective students through their learning and application journey. I'm going to hand it over to Adam.
Hi, I'm Adam Erickson. I am a senior engineer with Four Kitchens. I worked with NYU Steinhardt to lead the technical planning and build implementation of the new website. I'll hand it off to Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris Nichols. I'm the senior web designer and web team lead for NYU Steinhardt. I was the NYU Steinhardt project manager and guided the process on the university front, meeting with leadership, stakeholders, and CMS users. Our challenge when we started this process in January 2019 was to take the 60+ NYU Steinhardt websites that all had their own designs, menus, and templating systems and create a cohesive and single site design and navigational user experience. We had to create a system that could successfully support the over 200 degrees the school offers. Degrees that span fields from studio art, applied statistics, occupational therapy, media studies, teacher education, and more. We're sort of like a mini university within a larger university. In preparing for the redesign, we gathered data on cross-website traffic and in particular, prospective student user patterns. While we found that the majority of our prospective students did isolate their research to a single degree, as much as a third were interested in multiple degrees, many of which lived in different websites with those different layouts, navigations, and user experiences. As we audited our web properties and the user patterns, we began the process of convincing leadership and key stakeholders of the need for consistent user experience and to structure the core of the website around prospective students and their needs. Obviously, there are other audiences that the website speaks to, but we know how key the website is to prospective students. Through surveys sent to accepted graduate students, we know that the website is the leading factor in their decision to apply or not. 75% of our websites, 75% said our website was very or extremely influential in their decision to apply. No other factor reached above 55%. We needed to create a digital experience that could help guide the prospective student through their research process, from that first touch to submitting the application to enrolling in the fall. Now Donna will talk us through how we established our consistent baseline for prospective students.
Talking with the admissions office, departments, faculty, and first semester students, we built a persona for prospective students. The persona identified information that they needed to make the decision on whether to apply, and this included degree requirements, student experience, post-education opportunities, financial expectations, and application deadlines. With this agreed upon baseline of information that is required for each degree and program, we were able to develop a common navigation design. From there, we developed a strategy for managing the additional aspects for the programs to be addressed in a consistent manner. These additional aspects could include if a degree leads to a certification or a licensure, if internships or global study are a key component of that degree, and if there are facilities or labs that are integrated into that academic experience. Adam will take us through our technical planning.
Yeah, technical planning is a very important piece to the entire process, and it allows us to quickly execute during development and leave room to adapt and pivot if needed. The technical planning process happens kind of generally with active discussions, visual collaboration with wireframes, content modeling, and data modeling. The active discussions are an important part of the process, and that's really where the planning begins. Active participation in workshops is very helpful to understand perspectives. It's important to listen and learn and understand the topic at hand. And I say this as a tech lead because as a technical person, usually you want to jump into solutions or decision making early, but it's really a good idea to capture those thoughts and those gut feelings, but you want to be sure you take time to poke holes in your thought process. This can be done with collaboration and discussions with stakeholders and your peers. Again, it's important to listen and understand. Things that might be simple might not just be that simple. Another key part is the visuals, which are the ultimate tool to seek input and relay outcomes very quickly. It's good to start with rough draft sketches and evolve to more finished results. It's important to know who you're presenting to, so like the rough draft sketches are good for internal discussions to get points across, maybe with an internal or direct stakeholder on the client side. But otherwise, then you would evolve later to clean wires to present to stakeholders that might not understand that kind of the process, and you want to have them see something that's looking nice. And be sure that it's a good thing to wire out all the steps in the process, and we did this thoroughly throughout this project. We iterated through every step, and then it's good that it can help you. These wires can help you understand what the content needs are, and then the things that might be hidden that are important to your architecture and the build that you have. And next we're going to talk about some of the content models, which are just basically a high level of understanding of content types and their relationships. It's important to get to understand what these are, which content types might be the host or own the relationships, and like in the cases of the complexities around this project, the programs and degrees, where there can be multiple degrees within a program, and a degree can exist within multiple programs and courses that can interchange between things. It does quickly become a complex problem, and you want to make sure you're thinking about which content type or which entity is owning the relationships between each item. And we took time to understand that. And then we've later evolved that into our data model, which is just a very detailed view of the field architecture, and then understanding what are all the things that we need within each content type. It's important to detail the planned vision of the field architecture within each content type and have a solid understanding, so that'll allow you to execute quickly while you're building. And then again, you have it all in front of you, so that allows you execute something quickly. You find out that it's not quite right. You're able to pivot and change into a new direction if necessary. It's a good idea to talk to your engineering team about the data model. We did this a lot. I reflected back to my team and asking them what they thought of some of this process as we had it laid out. Oftentimes things were good, but then working with Chris and his team, we'd find that there were some things that might need to change. Generally, you want to do this for everything, all content types, and we did that for everything in this project. And then obviously the core part of this was the programs and degrees, and it made a very big impact on the final outcome that we took this time and get that level of understanding. And so I'd like to hand it off to Chris right now so he could walk you through the writing template.
Out of the wireframes and the content and data models, we created writers' templates. These serve to guide our content creators as they revised, in particular, the program and degree content. Having the individual fields that were part of those models let us create those different sections within a document. In our old system, our CMS users created pages using a single WYSIWYG editor for everything. It didn't matter what type of page or content it was. They edited the web page like it was a Word document. With the redesign, we were asking them to completely reconceptualize their content into individual components, and to further break that content down into various fields based on the type of content. This was a huge mental shift and made all the harder by the fact that we were working so fast that the content revision needed to start before the system was built, so they couldn't fully see it in action. Additionally, we knew that we would probably only have about a month or so to enter content, so writing with the structure of the new system in mind was of the utmost importance. We created a series of Google Docs with very clear sections for the text blocks that were outlined in the content and data models, and identified other digital assets that would be required to create a page. So if you needed an image for this type of page, if you needed a hero graphic for this type of page, it was identified in the Google Doc so that they could prepare them in advance. When possible, we also included suggestions or requirements for character counts. Knowing how different our programs and degrees are, for instance, the needs of a physical therapy program and how they might represent their degree offerings versus a visual arts program, where studio art, it's super important to see the artwork that they're creating. We knew we needed to have a variety of other components available and let the content creators plan with that in mind from the beginning. It wasn't useful for them to create components or write components if we didn't have them. And if we did have components that would serve these other purposes, we wanted them to write to that component. And now Donna will summarize the overall iterative process as we worked over these 9 months.
Hard to wrap your head around understanding all the content, when the content pieces work together, how and when they should be presented to prospective students, and the unique content that some degrees will need to include that Chris was just mentioning. We found it's best to work in an iterative process through this mental journey. We started with defining the content model and the relationships between different types of content. For example, defining the relationships between programs, degrees, courses, required fieldwork or study abroad, and the faculty, just to name a few. But looking at it from a conceptual perspective only got us so far. As the wireframes, designs, and writers' templates were built, we got to see the relationships in more tangible ways so that they can be refined. It's very reflective on each other, how they go, and we just need to keep looking at it from different perspectives. And just because you looked at it once, you're not done really here. And I think that's a really key point to stress here, is those different perspectives that help really you understand all the different aspects that you really need to get at. Chris is now going to give us a tour of the website.
On September 6th, 2019, we launched the first phase of the school's website overhaul process. From the beginning, we were mapping the web overhaul process in 3 phases that would take place over about 2 years. As expected, there were some bumps at launch and some structural and content changes that people were surprised by, but overall, the website launch was met with excitement. Let's take a look at an example of the prospective student's user journey and how the site is designed and organized to support that. The majority of our site visitors will either land on the school's homepage, which we see here, or the Programs and Degrees page, which we'll look at in a moment. From the homepage, prospective students get a quick snapshot of the school, the areas of study that make up the school's name, the NYU Steinhardt School of Culture, Education, and Human Development, as well as some quick stats that talk about the school, that give a sense of the scope, the work, the size, the impact. And last but not least, a quick, easy way to join the community that is NYU Steinhardt. For Programs and Degrees, as Adam and Donna both mentioned quite a bit, this is really the core of where our site is. Between Programs and Degrees and admissions, that's where our prospective student content is really at its richest. So for Programs and Degrees, we wanted something special. We have a sort of our default drop-down that looks sort of like this or like this. For Programs and Degrees, we wanted to make it a little more unique. So we added pictures in the background, we added tiles, we sort of changed it up, and again, because of the massive scope of our programs and the variety, we wanted to be able to offer a variety of different entry points for prospective students. That there are people who know what they want, and then there are people who are just sort of browsing and shopping. And we wanted to really give both types of audiences, both types of prospective students, a way in that is suitable to them and conducive to their browsing desires. So you can either go straight from browse and see the full list, or enter a keyword and search for a program or degree. Once you go into the Programs and Degrees page, you can browse by area of study, So these are a little more granular than the sort of slightly more idea-oriented culture, education, human development. We wanted to get a little more specific and cover some of the programs that we offer that aren't necessarily, you don't immediately think of like, oh, that's in culture or that's in these other programs. You can also search by keyword or filter by degree level of study. There are about 80 programs that the school offers and 200 plus degrees. So this page is long and it has a lot of words on it. Part of where the filters, the ways of searching, the accordions that we have on this page came from a desire to how can we present all the options, but not have it be too overwhelming. So for each program, we, as part of the writer's template, we had them draft short descriptions. So those went into this, so that each program has about a tweet length description that's just sort of a teaser. It's the most some of the most marketing oriented copy we have on the web page. A photo that goes with it that tries to add some visual flair to what could be a wall of text. And easy access to request info, where people can sign up to have the school email them content or learn more about the program. Once you go into learning about the program, you get so as Adam mentioned, programs for our process here, programs could contain multiple degrees. So dance education has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 degrees. The program is what is captured, it summarizes all of those degrees. So the faculty that teach for all of those degrees, the student experience that is part of this larger body of work that is the programs. This intro covers the program and sort of how the program is viewed or views itself. And then the prospective student can start to really dig into, okay, but what degree do I want? Is it appropriate am I an appropriate candidate for professional certification or initial certification? Am I a little more interested in the MFA program that is a combination of the dance ed and MFA through Tisch? Or am I more interested in ballet, and so I want to teach ballet? We'll go into this one. So they can, from this page, immediately either get more details on the degree, so credit count, deadlines, etc., or if they already know this is the degree for them, they can jump right into the how to apply page and see what are the steps they need to take, what are the deadlines, what are the requirements. Maybe they're not ready yet, so they go into the program or the degree to learn more. From this page, again, easy to apply, easy to request information, or keep learning through the curriculum, what are the required for graduation, and the details, a little snapshot, a quick glance of what are the credits. Is it full or part-time? Is it only one? Is it both? Is there a spring start date and a fall start date, or just a fall start date? What are the application deadlines? Knowing we need to make that as easy and glanceable and fast to access as possible. Then we get into the additional content. So these, as you might have just, if you re-look at the slides, where the longer descriptions, that's what these are. We presented in tabs because, again, we didn't want to overwhelm visitors with too much content here. And now I'm going to hand it over to Donna to discuss some of the process we went after launch. So we launched in September, but then we got back together in November and reunited the band for a little bit and did some user tests, looked at what are the things there were some things we knew weren't working, and then there were some things we're like, we're not sure, maybe we can change this up a little bit, and took this as an opportunity to say, let's get it right, let's do some user testing, let's continue refining what we launched with so that we make really informed decisions as part of the second phase of development of content and code development. Donna?
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, we definitely saw that there were some problems with some of the content. They were having difficulties navigating the content and some of the design of the few components that we were offering on the degree pages. We had some ideas how we wanted to address these problems, but before we invested any Adam's time, we wanted to be sure that our solution would fix the current problem and be sure that it doesn't introduce any new problems. So we created an interactive prototype using Sketch and Envision with First semester students as participants, we conducted usability sessions. Both Chris and I attended all the sessions. After each session, we discussed what worked well, what caused any problems, where the participant may have had some difficulty. From there, from these discussions, we iterated the prototype and retested yet again. After all of the sessions were completed, we created JIRA tickets for implementing the new design. Best of all, the entire process from making the prototype to creating the JIRA tickets took 1 week. User research can be worked into your sprints, nor does it have to hold back your development. Chris, please share the impact of the redesign has had on so far.
So we've had a little over 10 months to see the new site in action, and we've been able to implement about, I would say, a quarter to a third of the things we identified in those user tests. So far, we've already seen really great improvements in user behavior and user actions. We've seen a 22% increase in the average session duration. Something we identified early on was in the larger overall process was we wanted people to really journey through the experience. That's part of the hand-holding, that it wasn't you get one page and we serve it all up. We recognize this as this is a site that we want to guide people through. We want them to take a little more time with the overall process. So having longer session duration was a great result to see. We also saw a 10% increase in average pages per session, again, which makes sense for what we're wanting, for how we're using the steps along the way, trying to sort of tier the experience. We saw a 7% increase in the average time on page. Again, great, especially because we cut down on some of the copy. It means people are taking a little more time to take it in. And then we saw for actions, which translates to dollars, which is great, 25% increase in prospective student inquiry form submissions, and a 15% increase in started applications. So that point where we started graduate applications. I don't have easy access to the undergraduate application numbers. But for graduate study, we saw a 15% increase in started applications where we hand off the user from the main website to the application portal and the application experience. And not just with the end users, we've also seen the benefits with the CMS users of having a new and much more robust and component-based system. We've seen a drop of about 30% in support tickets submitted to the web team for anything from minor text changes to layouts that they don't necessarily like, and because it's a WYSIWYG editor, that I actually had to go in and code columns or force in a Flexbox type setup. They couldn't make any of those text changes for fear of completely breaking the page before. Now they can go in and do their own card layout. They can change the photos themselves in the hero graphic. It's cut down on our need to support really basic changes and has empowered the CMS users in ways that is really, really exciting to see and feels very, very appropriate since they know their prospective students better than I do.
Thank you for coming. Really appreciate you being here with us today and hearing about how we transformed the prospective student experience for NYU Steinhardt. Please join us at the Four Kitchens Higher Ed Happy Hour. There's a small Four Kitchens link to get to it from here. So it's the number 4ktch.in /SUMMITHH, so Summit Happy Hour, saying for. And next, we would like to open it up to any questions that you may have. Feel free to reach out to us now or later via email, whichever works best for you.